So something very interesting is happening right now, and that is that city officials and lawmakers are pushing back and telling the federal government to stop spending more money, that they have to do a better job. One thing in particular has to do with immigrants coming across the U.S. southern border illegally. One of the things that we've been facing over the past couple years is we are starting to see more and more people enter the United States through illegal pathways, pretty much sneaking across the border. Now, according to multiple studies, the American people do not have an issue with immigrants coming into the United States legally, doing things through the right process. But what they do have a problem with, and it's going to show up in the upcoming election, is that they have an issue with people coming into the United States, pretty much getting a free ride by getting free food, free shelter, free health care. That is the issue. So, certain states are now going to start pushing back, and they're going to cut their budgets, not to the citizens, but to the migrants. I want to explain which cities they are and why we are seeing this at this time. So, I'll break all this down in just a moment. All I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now, let's begin. So yes, it is true. We are now going to see more and more cities and some states are going to cut the budget to the migrant help. They aren't going to cut the budgets for citizens, or at least not as much. Just look at this right here. This says, migrant arrivals stretch Denver's budget. Now the city is scaling back aid. This was done from about 10 days ago, this article. This is very interesting though, because what we have seen is we've seen a lot of cities pretty much bend over backwards and give illegal immigrants any help that they wanted. But it was at the expense of the taxpayers, their citizens. We saw parks get closed, rec centers were closed and then utilized for shelters and not rec centers. We've seen libraries close early, schools are getting hit, everything just across the board is seeing a cut. Well, not anymore. These cities are now pushing back. I want to show you something else as well. Look at this. It says Boston Mayor Wu says migrant crisis will impact the city budget. However, according to reports, many cities, and Boston is one of those, that is looking at ways to cut the budget, but the budget towards migrants. Now, I want to show you something else though, because you're probably wondering, why is all this happening now? Well, keep in mind we have a very important date coming up on November 5th, where we have a presidential election. And so what cities are trying to do at this point is they're trying to show the residents that they have their interests at heart. They're looking at their best interests, not people coming across the border, not people that have never lived a day in their city. They're looking at their residents. Well, here's somebody else that is looking after these people as well. And it's not the U.S. federal government. Look at this. It says Mexico is stopping nearly 3 times as many migrants now, helping keep U.S. border crossings down. It says the Biden administration officials say the increased help from Mexico is slowing migration is proof their relationship with Mexico is more productive than Trump's approach. Okay, that's a fair assessment. But keep this in mind. Former President Donald Trump, his approach was build a border wall, make it more difficult for people to get in. It did just that. President Biden's approach was, let's open up our borders, make it more difficult for Mexico, because now they have to do more to keep people away from the U.S. southern border. In a way, they are both productive, but one is easier for Mexico, one is harder. Again, we'll see what happens. Here's what we do know though. Arrests at the U.S. border fall in April. This is bucking the usual spring increase because normally every spring we see more and more migrants enter the United States. However, this spring has been somewhat interesting. We've seen hurricane-like storm over in the southeast Texas. We've seen major heat. We've seen hail. We've seen snow in just different places at different times. Again, this has been an interesting year as far as weather is concerned. Usually the reason why springtime we see an increase to migrants is because it is nicer. It's not too hot, but it is not cold. We do not see snow. And so because of that, more people decide to cross at that time. However, again, the weather has been very interesting. Now, I do want to explain one other thing though. It's something that the Biden administration is planning to do. Look at this. It says U.S. announces effort to expedite court cases of migrants who cross the border illegally. Now, how are they going to expedite these court cases, and what's the reason for this? Well, it's actually because of multiple different things. One of the reasons why they want to expedite these court cases is because as of right now, it is taking potentially years before somebody ever gets in front of a judge. Look at this. It says the effort's objective, senior officials said, is to speed up the process of granting asylum to migrants with legitimate cases and rejecting weak cases. But based off what Republicans have been asking for is we have to fix the policy. It's a policy issue. That it's too easy to get accepted as far as asylum's concerned. We have to fix that. Let's keep reading this. It says, over the past years, the backlog of cases received by the immigration courts has ballooned, leading to wait times that often surpass 4 years. Fewer than 800 immigration judges are overseeing more than 3.5 million unresolved cases. One thing I can tell you is Democrats have asked for additional funding. President Biden has asked for additional funding as well to hire more immigration judges. The concern there is if we see more immigration judges, for example, we double it to, let's say, 1,600 instead of just 800. Well, the concern Republicans have is there's still a policy issue. If we still have it's very easy to get asylum accepted and granted. Well, then all we're doing is we're allowing more people into the United States legally. We're changing, and now it's going from they are seeking asylum to they have been granted asylum, meaning they can now get a work permit. Again, there's good news and bad news to all these things. So I just want to share this with you. I want to show you one other thing. It says single migrant adults who plan to live in 5 major U.S. cities, Atlanta, Boston, Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York City, they could be selected for the new process, which will instruct immigration judges to issue decisions within 180 days. The reason why is because now you are local. You are right there in one of the major hubs, Atlanta, Boston, Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York City, meaning there's a judge right there that can grant asylum or reject it almost immediately. So the interesting part about all this that's happening right now is that the Biden administration is looking at ways to slow down illegal immigration into the United States, but at the same time figure out a way to grant more people asylum so that they can then go and work, which would increase the revenue to the United States as far as tax dollars. It would increase Social Security's trust fund because of tax dollars there. It would allow more people to work, which would likely bring down unemployment. It would probably push inflation up, though, as more people are legally able to work. So, again, good news, bad news, but at least that's what we know. So, as of today, that is all we know. That yes, more people are likely coming into the United States, but Mexico has slowed down those numbers in recent months. Whether or not that continues, well, that's up in the air, and we'll figure that out as we get there. So, if you have any questions whatsoever regarding this, please let me know. You can always ask your questions down in the comment section below. But again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I will see you guys on the next one.